All right, well, it sounds pretty good. You're going to turn the podium off still, right? Okay. That should take care of the ringing. All right, welcome everybody. Glad to see you're here. Welcome to our short presentation on Cisco collaboration and the directory of the future. How many of you have used WebEx before or you haven't tried it yet? This should be like 100%, right? If you're not, that should be an easy question. So my name is Bjorn Aannestad. I'm the product manager for Ping Directory and for Ping One Directory. That's our on-premises and our cloud-hosted IDaaS solution, both. I have a foot in both camps. With me here is Nick Wooler, who's a longtime colleague of mine. We worked well together over the years. Me as vendor, Nick as customer. And he's going to talk to you about how they're using the Ping directory and have been using it within Cisco Collaboration Group for powering WebEx and so on. So you may see us as mild-mannered product managers standing up here, but I have it on good authority that this is how our teams see us. And you know it's true because we're branded in our corporate colors, blue for Cisco, red over here for Ping. And since you're all identity folks, I think it's okay to share personal secrets. Nick's costume has the muscles sewn into it, but the skinny arms on me over here are natural. They're exactly the way they are, right? Exactly. Okay, perfect. Very good. All right, so I'm going to spend just a little bit of time talking about demands on today's directories. We're going to talk about what makes a directory modern, and then I'll get out of the way and let Nick talk to you about how they use directory technology to power WebEx and Cisco Spark. All right, I don't really care for presentations that talk a lot about problems. We're all professional identity people here, so we know what the issues are that we're trying to tackle in our day jobs. But a couple of things are worth pointing out. You know, an integration across your identity stack with the tools you need to authenticate mobile users, like we have with Ping ID, is a key piece. The application access to software as a service is an interesting thing. You know, years ago, as identities, we were happy because we were all stored in Active Directory, and that's the only place we needed to be. But then Salesforce.com came on, and all of a sudden, there was a wave of distributed identities in all of these. So the happy place we were in kind of evaporated. And now we're in a phase of the industry where we're trying to bring all that back together. So there's still one identity that is shared with all these SaaS providers. And that's what you see us provide with Ping One. There's also the consolidation of obsolete systems. A lot of the systems that we see companies using still today are no longer in support. Right? But that's a problem because there's a lot of mission critical applications that depend on them. So having an identity stack that still supports those well-used and well-understood protocols is a key factor. Okay? Customers. We see more and more companies putting customer data into directories, and the rationale is exactly the same as employees. You want one system of record for who that person is and the information you have about them. It's obviously a scale problem because even a company with only 300 employees could easily have 300,000 or 3 million customers. So the same technology might take you an order of magnitude, but it's not going to take you 1,000 or 10,000 times further down the road. So you have to take care of that. And of course, with cloud and so on, everybody's looking for lower cost of ownership. And I translate that to efficiency. So not only would you, if you're one of the big boys, want something that could handle your 20, 30, 40, 50 million identities, but if you're smaller, you have 300,000, you have 30,000, you have 3,000, it'd be nice to run that on as little of Amazon or Azure services as possible. And those two are the flip side of the same coin, the efficiency there. And then personalization and customer experience speaks to the amount of data that you keep track of and how you use the identity. And I'll let Nick talk about that because that's really where we want to focus this. So if we take those demands and we stir them up and we say, what are the 5 things that might arguably make a directory modern, right? Number one, it's got to be deployable in AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, et cetera, right? Nobody really wants to deploy these on premises anymore, so supporting that is key. Okay. Cloud, on-premise, and hybrid development. I mentioned that I'm the product manager for both Ping Directory and Ping One's Cloud IDaaS, and part of the rationale for that is that we want to blur the lines between what you have on premises and what you've got in a private cloud and what you've got in a hosted identity as a service where you just sign up, because you may have user populations that are appropriate for each of those. And as you go through a technology transformation, you can't just ship everybody around all the time. You have to do it stage-wise. So providing a stack that gives you a method and a pathway for making those transitions is one of our goals. Number 3, support for modern application development, modern software development. And that means protocols. But you can't leave the old protocols behind. But in order to get people to use the identity system that you've built and provided within your company, you pretty much have to have native JSON support for attributes, because that's how application developers like to store objects, because today's programming languages make that easy. So another capability. All right, number 2, efficiency, stability, transaction volume. I already talked about that on the prior slide, so I'm not going to belabor that. But to introduce Nick here, I'm going to talk about the number 1 thing that makes a directory modern. Okay? So I would argue that a modern directory should no longer be seen as the gatekeeper to applications, whether they're on-premise desktop apps, Office apps, SaaS apps, or whatever else. It's much more than that. It should be looked at as something that you weave into the fabric of your business so that you can deliver more powerful, more secure products out to whoever your market is. Make those services powered by identity. You know, we see this in some of the largest companies on the planet today, the most profitable ones, right? Where identity is the center and registration is smooth and so on. So we're all familiar with those guys. So now I'm going to introduce Nick, and he will tell you about what they're doing in this realm with Cisco collaboration.
Thank you very much, Robin and Bjorn. But thanks, Bjorn, yeah, very much so, for being a great partner, but also for the setup, because this is actually the way that we see ourselves at Cisco in the collaboration business unit. We're not just the keepers of the identities, the keys to the kingdom, but we're also part of the development process inside the Cisco Collaboration Cloud. So I'm going to present one product-related slide just to give you guys background as to how we're using the identity and what we're doing uniquely with it. So when you think of Cisco Collaboration, a lot of people think of WebEx. It is our most used product, but in the cloud. But we also do a number of other things inside the collaboration business unit. We do calling, we do messaging, and now with the Spark platform, we do file sharing, bots and integrations, and we power lots of devices. So some of you may use our phones on the desktop, or our telepresence units inside meeting rooms or executive boardrooms, or even our new Spark board, which is basically a whiteboard that does some really unique things, not only from a collaboration perspective, but from a security perspective. So underlying all of this platform is a unique approach to security. So we all hear about the CIA and other 3-letter acronym agencies that have penetrated certain types of messaging systems to look at content that's there. What we've done is we've built an encryption method that not only encrypts the content, okay, that is shared inside those files and message content, but also the actual individual actions that occur on a Spark board. So every single action as a user is creating some sort of asset on a Spark board is actually encrypted with a unique key. And the only way you can get that unique key is by authenticating and being authorized to that space. So every single space that you interact with, whether it's a Spark board or a message content or share a file in it, has that unique key. And the only way you get into that is by proving who you are and being authorized to that space. Now, why that hopefully is, obvious to you guys how important the identity and access management system, the provisioning, the deprovisioning, the storage, the keys that we generate and prove who you are to this overall platform. Otherwise, encryption's just math, right? It's just a math problem you got to solve. But if you can prove who you are and get the unique keys, that's critical. So we take it even further, right? So we even encrypt the search that is done against the content. So we have unique patents that allow us to do that when you authenticate and authorize yourself to the space, we will give you the keys that you can use to search that individual content. Otherwise, from a Cisco perspective, we don't get to see it. It's just an encrypted blob that lives in our platform. So without the keys, you can't get it, you can't search it, you can't see it. Okay, critical piece. So that is at the heart of our platform. So authenticating so you can get the right access to get into the right rooms so that you can decrypt and encrypt the content. So the rest of the presentation, what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about what we've learned along the way. So 5 years ago, we started this process with the Ping directory in building from the ground up, okay, an accelerated process of a cloud identity as a service engine. Not as a service engine for consumer identities like Google and or Azure, but to power the development and innovation process inside Cisco collaboration. So from the day one of the things that we did is we started in a DevOps model. So Bjorn talked about being able to deploy into AWS, into the VMs infrastructures that power the cloud. We've been doing that inside our own Cisco WebEx cloud from day one. So we build on average once a week. Now, if there are security incidents that we have to build faster than that, or a feature that we need to roll out, we can build as often as we would like. But that's a critical difference, okay, in yesterday's directory versus today's directory, so that we can not only respond as a development community to feature requests and security, but we can also fit into the same model and speak the same language as our development teams as they innovate on the product itself. So it's a critical thing. One other thing that I'd also mention is our developers test in our production environment. So how many of you have identity pre-production environments that you perform your code testing on before you go to production? We do the same with our identity code. But when our developers are actually deploying their innovative, features inside the product, they do it in our production environment against our production identity system. We have almost, well, I won't quote the exact figure, but we have over 3 million test identities by themselves that are performing automated tests for our developers. So when Bjorn was talking about being a part of that development community, being embedded within the development process of our overall service, okay? So Spark and WebEx, those engineers are testing in that direct environment, right? Against our production code, modeling, some of the metrics that we keep against the platform, but also making sure that things are backwards compatible as they move forward their code in that production environment. We also provide a number of other things, and you can see on the right-hand side, it's not just Spark and WebEx that we're providing that identity as a service for. There are a number of other services. So how many of you have a Spark or a Cisco phone in your office environment, right? So that is our on-prem environment that is powered by CUCM. That can connect to the Cisco Spark Cloud. So when Bjorn was talking about some of the on-prem use cases, we provision identities from that environment, allow our customers to connect to the Spark Cloud and bridge that on-prem environment to the cloud environment for additional collaboration services. So like things like things like call services, connecting the call environment to the Spark Cloud environment, but also things like telemetry. So we collect telemetry and the quality of our service in Jabber using the identity as a service. So that client connects to the cloud, sends us log data if you allow us to, okay? And then that allows us to improve the quality of the overall service. So not just user authentication, but also increasing the quality of our overall product by allowing them to collect that important quality of service data as well. So hopefully you're also noticing that we also authenticate not just our users and devices, but we also support API security, authentication, and authorization for bots and integrations as well. Andre's talked a lot about intelligent identity and being able to do things that are seamless to the user. So one of the things that we've done is worked with third-party vendors like Ping, like Okta, and we are rolling out later this year integrations with Oracle and Azure that will take advantage of the SCIM protocol. And what that allows not only our customers to do with provisioning, it's more important from the deprovisioning use case. So one of the critical things about linking identity into the overall collaboration and security process is giving those long-lived authentication tokens is great. But what happens when somebody in a DLP engine is using a file that they shouldn't, or sharing a file that they shouldn't? How do we revoke the tokens for that user? So how many of you inside your companies are using CloudLock or a CASB engine today? Okay, some of you in the audience. So one of the great things that those services do inside the network layer is monitor for activity in different SaaS-based applications and can apply policies to them. We've done native integrations with CloudLock, and later this year we're rolling out some additional integrations. But not only does that help us from a provisioning perspective, but if an employee or an HR event occurs where they're doing some things that they shouldn't with file data, or in bad situations where they may be doing things from an HR perspective, abusive things with other employees, the integrations with those CASB solutions and DLP solutions can take action, right? They can not just quarantine files, they can not just stop or suspend access, but they can actually revoke access and make sure that it happens immediately. So SCIM's not only important from a provisioning perspective, but a deprovisioning perspective, and then other layers of integration allow us to keep the users and the platform secure. So a lot of people look at the identity problem today as just a user problem, right? Well, one of the things that Cisco's had to do from the ground up, and why the modern directory is so important to us, is the ability to not just model user accounts, but the Internet of Things. So from the ground up, day one, we built things like machine accounts into the platform that allow us to model not just users, but also devices, bots, and they all have a user identity within the system, which allows us to do a number of things, right? If a bot is behaving badly, we can trace that bot, defend that bot, revoke access for that bot, manage the life cycle, okay, of those machine accounts. Same thing for phones. Same thing for the Spark boards that are provisioned into our platform, right? And they all connect or authenticated, authorized, so that they can get those unique keys, so we can provide the security layer that modern cloud and enterprise environments require. So again, not just the user-based approach to this, but also how are we managing those identity of things as they enter into that environment. So a critical part of our platform. Last but not least, as we mentioned the integrations and the bots, we also need to be able to apply policy to them. And so one of the things that we're rolling out at the moment is an ability to whitelist and blacklist those bots and integrations, so that you can manage from an enterprise perspective whether those bots can be applied to the platform by your organization of users. So what's critical about this at the SaaS level is the ability to do that for all of your users. For developers, you might have a different policy. so that they can develop the integration, run it through the life cycle that your enterprise is looking for, and then extend it to all of the employees when necessary or when it's passed all of the security testing that your organization might require. We take it through our own security integration testing, and it's only then do we deploy it into the depot, and then we make it available for all organizations to use. But this whitelisting and blacklisting capability will allow you to then control some of those capabilities yourself. But again, relying on that bot and integration to have its own identity so that we can manage it, but also then to allow you to manage how it's being provisioned and used by the users and employees inside an organization. So again, all this data is being powered by the modern directory that we're using and underpinning it. So that's an overview of the main capabilities that we have inside the modern directory. There are a couple of things that I'd like to share just that aren't in slideware but may be of interest to you. So one of the things that we're experimenting with, and Nikhil Kapri, who's one of our leading engineers, is in the audience today, is we're also working on some mechanisms to handle the GDPR aspect of things. And so one of the approaches that Cisco is taking here is we are using a discovery process. So like the Google authenticator that you saw in the keynote a few minutes ago, that discovery flow allows us to enter an email address of the user. And because we're a collaboration service, we have to present that one identity of that user to the right locations so that they can get and take advantage of the security model. But also, we have to be able to, with GDPR, present them to the right cluster, okay, in our data center strategy so that their data is secure and at rest in the domain that our customers want it to be. So one of the things that we're working on is that discovery process and that passing of the user to the right cluster so that we can keep their data at rest in country. So that's one of the things that the modern directory allows us to do. Some of the proxy capabilities inside the Ping directory allow us to pass the user and or segment the user to the right location, as well as control how replication occurs. So one of the things I didn't mention at the beginning is when we started this service 5 years ago, we built an active-active topology so that users could come into whatever data center that had the most availability and could take advantage of that availability across data centers. Also helped us with resiliency. And one of the things that's been powerful about that is that intelligent proxy in the Ping directory server that allows us to control where the traffic is routed and then also how the replication occurs. So it's been a powerful partnership between the two organizations. So I'm going to stop there. I think we've got maybe 2 or 3 minutes or 5 minutes for questions. But we didn't want this to be hopefully you've heard some of the lessons learned and some of the things that we're doing technically that are maybe of interest to you. We didn't want to make it a vendor pitch about collaboration. You can get that from any of our sales guys. But this one of the great things about the Cloud Identity Summit over the years is the ability to learn from each other. And that way we all get smarter, right? So if you have questions, we'd love to share because we're about collaborating. That's my pitch.
Hi, I'm Jyoti and I'm from Splunk.
Hi, Jyoti.
Hi. So one question I do have is about your biggest top 5 lessons learned, or make it 3.
Yeah, I'd say when we started on the automated testing journey, okay, I'll tell you this, we never saw the volume of user accounts that the developers would create in that process. Another thing that I'd say is a big lesson learned is from a DevOps perspective, I would encourage you, if you're starting new developments or starting new phases of development, start that from the ground up, because you will learn things about the deployment process that will impact your ability to respond. And as you get that into your DNA, you really build that as an operating procedure, and you'd be surprised how powerful that is to your feature development, as you go forward. Nikhil's in the audience. Would you offer any other like big lessons learned, or you don't have to? I mean, yeah.
I think one of them was regarding the login flows and
Yeah.
how we can basically services which we provide, they may have how we deal with them and how we design the flows with them to integrate more better.
Yeah, and he's underselling that a little bit. So on that 5 or 6 services box on the right-hand side on the diagram, that's not representative. We probably have 30 clients that use our login flow in different ways. And some are standards based and using the main login flow. But that's a great example of how we work with our other services to really define the right process. And it's pretty much the same flow, but there are unique little requirements. Like Eric was talking, or not Eric, was talking about at Google, right? When you go and you talk to these individual services, they have their own perspective. You have to work with them, find the right flow that's good for the overall service. And Nikhil's been a big part of that. Talking about partnering with those business owners, it's a critical part of your success. Yeah. And speaking of Splunk, one other thing that not to make it an advertisement, I didn't know you would be in the audience, but one of the things we do is we do write our log files. So the Ping directory is very good at writing extensively the log data about what's happening in the service, and we write that to Splunk, and we use a business analytics engine to harvest data from that for reporting internally, metrics. So I would imagine for many of you, daily active users, monthly active users are important metrics for your services, and this is where, from an identity perspective, you connect with the business. When you can power and give the business those types of information about what's happening in your identity system, you remind them how important you are to how the service is being used. So you become a part of, the reasons why they want you to be successful, right? So it's another way that is critical. I don't always make a big deal about the business analytics. It's certainly something that we're doing. We're also in our roadmap looking at longer term ways to use security analytics. You can imagine in our company, we are a security company. Security analytics are an important part of what we do from a learning perspective. And so there are things there that we are hopefully going to be able to talk about in the future. Yep. Any other questions? No.
Okay, well, thank
All
you,
right.
everybody. And,
Sure.
we'll be up here.
Oh, is there one other question? Yeah.
I was going to wait till after, but it may be a little off topic. But you said you had over 3 million individual test actors that are automated?
They're test automation accounts, and we treat them, just as we would user accounts because they're in the production system. Now, we isolate them in most cases to tenants that are related to that, but that's the amount of activity that's going on to not just, test the features.
What tools did you use to build those 3 million individual actors?
Yeah, so a lot of them, they build them into their test process as they do it. Okay. Yeah, when we do performance testing, we have a pre-production system, as I mentioned earlier. We do that in our pre-production system, so we never do that kind of stuff. Or security testing, we do in both. But that's how we don't use automated tools in all cases. Nikhil, I don't know if you want to add to that. I mean, I'm not aware of any developer tools per se that are creating those on an automated basis. They usually do it in their unit testing. Yep.
Thanks.
Sure. All right. We're here all week, so have fun and look forward to sharing.